It is officially autumn, people, which means it's a perfect time to fall in love with some fun, spooky books. So I've compiled a list of 13 thrillers, mysteries, dark fantasies, and of course, horror that you'll want to devour while chugging your pumpkin spice latte and nibbling on your apple pie. So in this video, I'll give a short summary on each book and my initial thoughts on them. These are all books from my personal TBR and recommendations I received from the comments in this YouTube short I made, asking for recommendations for fall books. So for the next couple months, I'm personally gonna read like 2 or 3 of these books. I'm more of a mood reader, so I'm not sure which ones I'm gonna read yet, but I figured I'd share everything I'm considering.
This video is sponsored by Shopify, but more on that later.
Let's get into it. Salem's Lot by Stephen King. A writer returns to his childhood town in Maine only to discover that the residents are becoming vampires, and chaos ensues. Hello, Sue. Obviously, if you're looking for a haunting, spooky season recommendation, Stephen King's name is gonna pop up. Whoa, there it goes. Whoa, there it is. He quite literally is the king of horror and spooky thrillers. You might have heard of some of them. The Shining, It, and other ones probably. And people recommend The Shining to me all the time, but I've seen the movie, so I really don't have a desire to read it. Sorry, I already know the ending, but you really can't go wrong with a little Stephen King novel when the weather gets a little crispy outside, says the guy who's only read 2 Stephen King books, neither of them horror or spooky at all, and I read them in the summer in 80-degree heat. But just trust me, bro, on this. So Salem's Lot was published in 1975. It's a bona fide classic. Speaking of bona fide, talk about spooky, trying to guard this guy doing the slip and slide. And Stephen King said Salem's Lot was his favorite book that he's ever written. Look, I'm not a huge vampires guy. Twilight was fine. Dracula never moved the needle for me. Count Chocula made decent cereal. But recently I watched Sinners, and Sinners was awesome. Sinners was a good movie. So now I'm kind of lacing them up for Team Edward right now. Waiting for Robert Pattinson to call me into the game. My fancy has been tickled. I'll say it. And I'm looking forward to reading about some of these undead bloodsuckers for the first time. This is a heavy favorite. This is a heavy favorite for the book I'm going to read. I'm going to be honest with you. I might do a buddy read with my brother, and maybe I'll make a video about that, so stay tuned. Pet Seminary, also by Stephen King, and I swear this is the last Stephen King one I'm gonna recommend. Lewis and his family discover a strange pet burial ground in the woods behind their home in no other state than, you guessed it, Maine. My guy Stephen King loves Maine, and I love him for that. Maine's sweet. Noah Kahn also loves Maine. I love Maine. Maybe me, Noah Kahn, and Stephen King should go to like a Red Claws game. Oh no, maybe we should go to like a Portland Sea Dogs game. That honestly, that sounds like a great time. Anyways, back to Lewis and this creepy burial ground in their backyard. An ominous fate befalls anyone who dares tamper with this forbidden place. And our friend Lewis is about to discover that for himself. Yeah, so it appears that the title Pet Seminary is pretty self-explanatory about what's going on in this book. Seems like it's about a pet cemetery. And the feedback that I'm seeing on this book is that it's a tad bit more heavy than Salem's Lot. I'm not just talking about page count either, because it is about 80 pages longer. I'm talking theme-wise. Salem's Lot is kind of like, vampires. Pet Seminary is kind of like about grief, loss, death. I don't know, just maybe some more heavy themes. And this book was written in 1983. And oh my God, that is over 40 years old. That is bizarre to say and to hear out loud. I remember I used to use the 1980s as like a benchmark to figure out athletes' ages in video games when I would look at their birthdays. And when I saw they were born in the 1980s, I'd be like, oh yeah, they're like 20 something. I remember playing as a 22-year-old Miguel Cabrera. You weren't with me playing as a 21-year-old BJ Upton, watching his career blossom alongside my player. You don't understand that even back then, Carlos Delgado was a seasoned veteran, an old head. Still had pop though. I was pressing square with that power swing when Delgado was up. The cat. Yeah, anyway. Oh, wow. Anyway, that was a weird tangent, huh? Out of these 2 Stephen King books, I'm leaning Salem's Lot. Sounds a little bit more fun to read, a little bit shorter, although it's still 500 pages. Overall, though, I think to start, I'm just looking for like a fun, spooky read that I can kind of fly through. So I think I'm going to go Salem's Lot, but let me know if I'm an absolute Nimrod for that. I would appreciate you letting me know if I'm an absolute Nimrod in the comments for that. Thank you. We Used to Live Here by Marcus Cleower. A couple who bought an old house to flip and renovate has their project interrupted by a family of 5 claiming to have lived there before. So funny story that I totally forgot about until I was hanging out with my college roommate last weekend. In college, we lived in like this dilapidated house with 5 other dudes. And one random day, we're all just chilling in the living room and we hear a knock on the door, which is weird because anyone who would have come in would have absolutely Kramered, their entrance. So knocking was weird and formal. So we answer it, and it was a dude that must have been 30 at the time. Mind you, I was 21, so he might as well have been middle-aged. He explained to us that he used to live here in college and that him and his roommates hid something in the house and they wanted to check us to see if it was still there. So we were like, okay, I guess. And he walks up like the stairway and opens this little trap door that none of us have ever noticed and pulled out a gun. A literal gun. And by literal gun, I mean airsoft gun. But still, looking back at it, how weird was that? Why did him and his roommate hide an airsoft gun in this strange trap compartment and then come retrieve it a decade later? We don't know. It's baffling, befuddling, and even bewildering. It's a mystery that remains unsolved, and maybe I should write a book about it. So I don't think anyone's yanking a BB gun out of the wall in this book, but who knows? At least the premise kind of resonates with me, so that makes me want to read it a little more. But this book was published in 2024. It is brand new, hot off the press. It only has a 3.6 Goodreads rating, but this comment made me want to read it. I think it's like a psychological thriller, which I like. It's suspenseful, has supernatural elements, mind-bending things, and apparently initially it was posted to Reddit, and then it had success there and then became a full published novel. I don't know the full story of that, but that seems pretty wild. Rags to riches, baby. I love that. So yeah, the book sounds great. Might read The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Enthralled by his own exquisite portrait, Dorian Gray exchanges his soul for eternal youth and beauty. Makes 2 of us. He's drawn into a corrupt double life, indulging in his desires in secret while remaining a gentleman in the eyes of polite society. I was talking about 1980 being old. This book was published in 1890 by Oscar Wilde. I didn't even know that until just now. I really liked this comment though. They love it because the flowery writing used in the book is such a stark contrast to what's happening and almost makes you forget something very wrong is happening. This is a shorter book. It's about 250 pages. It has almost 2 million Goodreads ratings, and it's a 4.13. I've never really heard of it, if I'm being honest with you. I know who Oscar Wilde is. I never read anything by him that I know of. So this could be interesting to read something by him. Honestly, it might just be a little bit too old for me to want to read right now. Just based off of that comment, although I think it sounds interesting, I don't love flowery writing. I kind of prefer more conversational writing, more modern writing. So reading a book from 1890 is going to inherently be so different than what I'm used to and what I typically enjoy and what allows me to kind of be ravenous reading a book. When things are a little bit more jarring or flowery or whatever you want to call it, lyrical, it's harder for me to get in that flow state and it's harder for me to finish a book like this. So that is my only concern with this. I don't know much about it. It sounds interesting. It sounds like philosophical in a way and obviously creepy. Maybe I'm talking myself into it right now. I don't know. Let me know if I should read Dorian Gray. Right now, it's probably on the bottom of this list for me because of how old it is. I guess I'm being ageist with this book, but let me know if I'm a big, dumb, stupid idiot. Always let me know if I'm being a big, dumb, stupid idiot. I would appreciate that. Thank you. House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. A young family moves into a small home where they discover something is terribly wrong. Their house is bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. And that sounds like a good problem to me. That sounds like maximizing space. It's like a renter's dream. Based on what I've read about this, it kind of reminds me of Piranesi a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I'm probably so off with that. Piranesi is way more fantastical and whimsical. This is a horror book, like a mystery thriller type, so maybe they're completely different. But I did get this recommendation a couple times, and it does sound really interesting to me. It explores themes like the unknown, trauma, obsession, love, family issues. There's like this labyrinthian kind of layer to it inside of the house, and I guess that's what reminds me of Piranesi. The house is kind of, seems like it has like a mind of its own, and it's almost like, this is kind of like the movie Smart House. This came out in 2000. I don't know, maybe they just, is this plagiarizing the Disney original Smart House? Kind of sounds like it. But yeah, honestly, sounds eerie. And I feel like it's such a thing with horror and thrillers, like the house being almost a character in itself. and the house being the cause of all these things. There's something inherently creepy about that. And so a few of these books have houses as like central elements, and this is one of them, the House of Leaves. House of Leaves. Hopefully the big bad wolf doesn't come running around blowing it away, if you know what I'm saying. All right, move on to the next one. A Short Stay in Hell by Stephen L. Peck. A man dies and is sent to hell. Except it turns out hell is a humongous library, of which he can only escape by finding the single book that contains the story of his life. Honestly, it doesn't sound that bad of a situation for him. I love putzing around bookstores or libraries, just reading the backs of the books, kind of feeling the covers. It's relaxing. It sounds like heaven. Anyway, our main character interacts with a god that he never knew existed, never heard of. It's like not the god that he grew up believing in or anything or even knew about. And things happen, probably. Things for sure happen and transpire. A Short Stay in Hell was published in 2011, and it's a blend of horror, science fiction, and a little bit of theology, which is the study of religion, for those of you who are just need that clarification, because whenever I hear it, I don't really always remember what it means. It is haunting, it's thought-provoking, and it is a slender, svelte, teeny, tiny, incy, 104 pages. Let's freaking go. This has actually been on my TBR for a minute. I forget who recommended it to me at first, but it's on my Goodreads currently. Chilling, stuck there, waiting to find the book that contains the story of its life. And I don't think I realized how short it was until this very moment. So now I will for sure read it. This could easily be one of the 3 books I read. I'm a good short king who likes a good short novel.
As you guys may know, I also run a channel called Phil Hates Gluten, where we sell hot gluten-free merch and use Shopify to sell that merch. And today, I'm gonna show you how to use Shopify shipping to fulfill a t-shirt order. Oh, hey, Howie. So we built my storefront using Shopify, so when an order comes in online or in person, we see it right here. Looks like my guy Marcus bought a t-shirt. So I press create shipping label, choose my package type, and it will give me an automatic suggestion for shipping. I'm gonna choose USPS's cheapest option, because call me Little Dicky how I saved that money. And I get a discount for using Shopify shipping. So then it creates the shipping label that I just need to print and put onto my package. Here's Marcus's shirt. Ooh. I'm gonna fold it on up, slip it into something a little more comfortable. And then we put this bag in a poly mailer. Little final touch here. So I got Marcus's order right here. All it's missing is a shipping label. I got my thermal printer, and I just switched the setting on the shipping to thermal printing, and bam, here it comes. Whoop. So now I just take it over to USPS. It's as easy as that. And then customers like Marcus can track their shipment. And you can also fulfill these like 50 orders at a time, which is huge because sometimes we get like 500 orders. No big deal. Shopify makes it super easy for us to run our merch business. And if you want to start a business of your own, use this code and get started on your first free trial.
One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. A girl hiding a dangerous secret monster within her is thrust into a world of dark magic and forbidden power. And her survival depends on balancing her humanity with the creature she carries inside. His main character sounds like me because when I'm on the court, I got that dog in me. I got that dog in me, dog. Run the clip. So this is a fantasy book, which in my humble opinion is totally autumnal. Like fall yearns for the fantastical. And fantasy books are certainly fantastical. This book in particular has a gothic vibe, has a monster or two, and maybe it's a little more Halloween-y feeling of a fantasy because of that. It was published in 2022, was recommended to me by this guy. Sounds great. Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. Try to say that 10 times fast. Something wicked this way comes. Something wicked this way comes. Something wicked this way comes. I guess it's pretty easy. 2 13-year-old boys, Jim Halloway and Will Nightshade, uncover the sinister secrets of a mysterious traveling carnival that arrives in their small Midwestern town. As strange and dark events unfold, the boys and Will's father become entangled with the carnival's owner, Mr. Dark, and all the carnival's nightmarish attractions, which offer tempting wishes in exchange for costly consequences. Boy, that was a mouthful of a summary. This is a coming-of-age horror story from 1962, written by the same guy who wrote Fahrenheit 451. Like everybody else, I read Fahrenheit 451 in high school English class, and I think I liked it at the time. I think it was pretty chill. Haven't read Ray B since, but this was the highest liked comment of a recommendation on that YouTube short that I mentioned. And coming in at just under 300 pages, I'm stroking my chin intrigued to read it. I'll be honest though, I kind of got at this with the book from 1890. At this point of my reading career, I'm still like a freshman, sophomore. I like to read newer books. It's kind of my lane. It's my fastball. It is my layup, if you will. I like to read books published like in the 2000s or later. I don't know, is that controversial? I just think modern writers write more modernly, and I enjoy to read a modern writing. Like, I'm not excited to read classics like Dracula or Frankenstein. I don't know, is anyone else, you know, would anyone else prefer kind of books written more recently? I'm generalizing here, of course, like it's not like I'm writing off classics or anything like that, and I'm sure this will change as I keep reading more, but right now I like the modern stuff. I just do. So again, this book in particular is going to be towards the bottom of the list of my priority right now, unless someone calls me a big, silly Nimrod. And I'll deserve it. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. Adeline LaRue, aka Addie, is a young woman in 18th century France who makes a desperate deal with the dark god to live forever. However, her immortality comes with a curse that everybody she meets will forget her the moment she leaves their eyesight, making it impossible for her to leaving a lasting mark. Until one day, in a modern New York City bookstore, she meets a young man who remembers her name. "Hey, yo, Addie, you a baddie," he reportedly said. Speaking of putzing around bookstores, I was putzing around a bookstore the other day in Boston. Here's the proof. Didn't believe me, did you? Yeah, watch away. Feast your eyes on that proof right there. I stumbled across this cover. Looked cool. Cool cover. And the title sounded familiar. I don't know why, but it did. And I read the back and I loved the concept. And then while scripting this video, because I just bought it, I Googled if The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue is a good book for spooky season. And I found this result from the Word Nerd, who said that it weaves a tale of darkness, passion, magic, and shadows. So it's a great fall read. That's all the convincing I needed. If you guys follow me, you know I'm primarily a fantasy boy. I like magic, and I don't know where the magic plays in here, aside from the fact that she's invincible or immortal or whatever. This probably has like some historical fantasy elements to it too, considering she goes from like 17 to 80 something and lives all these lives, and I think we follow her through all these eras in her life, kind of like we followed Taylor Swift through all the eras in her life. Congrats, Taylor and Travis. And because I own this, I definitely will read it. Honestly, it's probably going to be my next read. It's probably going to be my very next read. This was published in 2020, and V.E. Schwab has been on my radar. I always see her book Vicious everywhere. Don't know why I picked this one up before I picked up Vicious, but I'm also the guy who read Billy Summers as his first Stephen King book, so I'm not going to act like I do everything right. All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. A small town sheriff investigates a crime that reveals deep corruption and violence in his community. What begins as a straightforward case spirals into a reckoning with race, faith, and justice. This is a 2023 true crime, noir, suspenseful thriller type novel. I recently read Blacktop Wasteland by S.A. Cosby. That book started off pretty slow to me. I think it was probably the noir aspect of it, and as a fantasy guy, I do like some magical elements to it, some sci-fi elements, whatever. So that book was very grounded in real life and things that could have actually happened and didn't have any magic or anything or any sci-fi. So it wasn't as inherently interesting for me as a reader, but it definitely heated up as the stakes got higher, and it got pretty action-packed. It got really pretty heart-pumping, action-packed. And yeah, a lot of these spooky reads I'm recommending have like some otherworldly, you know, or like hellish, evil aspect of it. I'm not really sure if this one does, but in All the Sinners Bleed, there is a serial killer on the loose, and that's scary. That's real life scary. Stephen King, the king of horror, gushes about S.A. Cosby. And S.A. Cosby is an interesting author because he tackles issues like race, systemic racism, black Southern lives, historical injustices, and just things that you don't necessarily get in other books, especially books that are on this list. This is kind of one of a kind here. I have a couple more of S.A. Cosby's book on my TBR, Razorblade Tears being one of them. But this one's cover reminds me of the movie Sinners that I mentioned in the beginning of this video. I actually looked up to see if this was the source material for Sinners because they both have that kind of moon on the cover. It isn't, but Sinners was scary, so maybe this book's going to be kind of a little scary. There's a murderer, like I said. And therefore, this 2023 thriller enters our list. The Overnight Guest by Heather Gudenkoff. This is a thriller published in 2022 where a true crime writer, interesting because S.A. Cosby is a true crime writer. This fictional true crime writer, though, his name is Wiley Lark, and they take shelter at a remote farmhouse during a blizzard, only to find a nearly frozen child come to her doorstep. And as Wiley attempts to protect this child, she learns about this farmhouse's dark past and also learns that someone is trying to find them. This story unfolds across multiple perspectives and timelines. So although it's set in the same location, I believe, I think we get some kind of newness to it. And I'll be frank with you, this cover seems a lot more wintry than autumnal, but tomato, you know? It snows in November sometimes. This is supposed to be an atmospheric read. It's set during a blizzard, and I guess maybe that'll give you that chilly kind of, I guess, more winter vibe, but I'm gonna say fall vibe. This is like a mystery thriller. Sometimes with these isolated farmhouse or log cabin kind of storylines, you assume it would be like a slasher. I don't think I put any slashers on this list that I know of. I haven't read any of them, so I'm not positive, but I don't love slashing. I love thrilling. Thrill got books. Yeah, this one sounds very interesting and spooky and eerie. I'm DTR. Down to read. All 316 pages. A Night in the Lonesome October by Roger Zelazny. Once every few decades, when the moon is full on the night of Halloween, the fabric of reality thins, and doors are open between our world and the realm of the great old ones. This story is apparently told through the perspective of a dog. I don't know how true that is, but I read it. I'm pretty sure I read that. It's like a watchdog of the main character. I don't know how they're gonna pull that off. Isn't there like a scary movie that was just recently made that's from the perspective of a dog? But if that's true, it sounds fun and different. Published in 1993, 280 pages. I like how these books that I'm recommending aren't too long. Like none of these are like 800 pages. They're all 300, 400 max. For some reason, this cover's giving me Knives Out vibes. And I like searched Knives Out on the Goodreads on the Finder, and it didn't pop up. I was hoping someone would be like, oh, Knives Out. It's just like Knives Out. No one said that. But you can't expect mystery, gripping suspense, humorous dialogue, and a little bit of fantasy. So it seems like this book has it all. It's supposed to be a blast, a fun read, a fun adventure. Cool cover, too. Cool cover. And then 13 is just going to be a bunch of series that I'm currently reading or have already read that I think you should start in the fall. The First Law trilogy. This is grim dark fantasy, which means it's grim and dark and has fantasy in it. And it's also funny. It's awesome. It's my first time reading Joe Abercrombie, and he immediately became like a top 3 author for me. I still have to read the last book in the series, but the first 2 were amazing, and there's a lot of stuff for horror fans in there, trust me. The Sun Eater series. So this is a sci-fi, but the reason I put it in here is because it has futuristic vibes to it, but the creatures are so creepy and weird and interesting and spooky. And the writing isn't like the funny writing in the First Law trilogy or even conversational writing that you might find with Brandon Sanderson. Christopher Rocchio writes, I'd say, eloquent. So it brings a whole other vibe to it, and maybe that might help for a thriller fan. I don't know. Mistborn. So Mistborn is written by Brandon Sanderson. It's the first series I read by him. It made me fall in love with his writing. He does have conversational writing. He is an extremely popular fantasy writer who writes amazing magic systems, and his words just flow off the page. And although they're intimidating, don't feel intimidating, because if I can grasp all this, you can too. But the reason I put it in this list is because the vibes, the setting, it is like a dark kind of gothic atmosphere, reds, grays, blacks, like the Steel Inquisitors, the other creatures that I don't want to spoil, but like the things in here are very creepy and weird and spooky. Scythe. This series is literally about Grim Reapers maintaining population control. So, pretty self-explanatory here. Dungeon Crawler Carl. So this is funny. It's not necessarily spooky or eerie or anything like that, but it does have monsters of all shapes and sizes. And it's got gore and talking cats. Red Rising. Just because it's never a bad time to recommend Red Rising. It's my favorite series of all time. So, never a bad time to start it this fall, baby. All right. Those are some recommendations for books that I'm personally considering on reading in the fall for those autumnal, spooky, eerie, harrowing, horror-like vibes. Like I mentioned before, I realized I don't think I have any like slasher kind of books. So if you like a book like that and you want to recommend it in the comments, let me know, because I feel like that's a hole that I haven't filled in this video. And also let me know if any of these books are worth reading more than the rest. Right now I'm leaning Addie LaRue, I'm leaning Salem's Lot, and then I have that third slot wide open, and I'll probably read 4 of these if I'm being honest with you, especially with some of the shorter ones. Let me know which one I should read, and let me know which books I missed that should have been on this list. I'm giving you guys a lot of homework, so I appreciate the help. It's officially pumpkin spice latte season, guys. I think we're past the point of being embarrassed about loving it. I cannot wait to have my first one. Drink those PSLs loud and proud, guys. Come on. Peace!